Welcome back to True Crime. Today we're delving into the terrifying case of Robert Hansen, a man whose nickname, the Butcher Baker, belies the unimaginable horrors he inflicted on his victims. Born in 1939 in Estherville, Iowa, Hansen grew up in a strict household with a domineering father. Shy, introverted, and plagued by a severe stutter and acne, Hansen was often bullied throughout his childhood, which left him feeling deeply isolated. These early experiences sowed the seeds for the violent fantasies that would later drive him to become one of Alaska's most notorious serial killers. Hansen's early adult life seemed relatively ordinary. After serving briefly in the U.S. Army Reserve, he moved to Anchorage, Alaska in the 1960s, where he became a respected member of the community. Hansen owned a bakery and was known for being a devoted family man with a passion for hunting. He even set several local records for his archery skills. However, behind this facade of normalcy, Hansen harbored dark urges that would lead him to commit some of the most horrifying crimes in Alaska's history. Between 1971 and 1983, Hansen abducted, tortured, and murdered at least 17 women, though some believe the true number of victims may be higher. His victims were typically young women, many of them sex workers or runaways, whom he would abduct from Anchorage. After taking them to his remote cabin in the Alaskan wilderness, Hansen would sexually assault and terrorize them. What makes his crimes especially chilling is what came next. Hansen would release some of his victims into the wild, only to hunt them down like animals, using his expertise as an experienced outdoorsman and marksman to stalk and kill them in the dense forests surrounding Anchorage. Hansen's modus operandi was both calculated and sadistic. He would often fly his victims to remote areas in his private plane, dropping them off in desolate regions of the Alaskan wilderness where they had little to no chance of escape. Armed with a rifle, Hansen would track them through the rugged terrain, prolonging their terror before ultimately killing them. This twisted game of cat and mouse was something Hansen relished, and his ability to live a double life as a quiet, unassuming baker allowed him to evade capture for years. Despite several close calls with law enforcement, Hansen's crimes went undetected for a long time, largely because of his unremarkable appearance and status as a local business owner. He was arrested multiple times for minor offenses, including theft, but these incidents never connected him to the disappearances of women in the Anchorage area. The remoteness of his hunting grounds and the vulnerability of his victims made it difficult for authorities to establish any clear links between the missing women and Hansen. Hansen's reign of terror came to an end in 1983, when one of his victims, 17-year-old Cindy Paulson, miraculously escaped. After Hansen abducted and assaulted her, she managed to flee while he was preparing his plane for another deadly hunt. Paulson's testimony provided police with critical information, allowing investigators to obtain a search warrant for Hansen's property. What they found was damning. Hidden in his home were maps of the Alaskan wilderness, with X marks indicating the burial sites of his victims. The search also uncovered trophies from his hunts, including jewelry and personal items belonging to the women he had killed. Confronted with the overwhelming evidence, Hansen eventually confessed to the murders. He admitted to killing at least 17 women, though the full extent of his crimes may never be known. His detailed confessions revealed the cold, calculated nature of his killings and how much he had enjoyed the power and control he exerted over his victims. In 1984, Robert Hansen was convicted of multiple murders and sentenced to 461 years in prison without the possibility of parole. Hansen's case shocked the state of Alaska and the nation at large, not only because of the brutal nature of his crimes, but also because of how long he had managed to evade suspicion. The fact that such a mild-mannered, seemingly ordinary man could lead such a horrifying double life struck fear into the heart of the Anchorage community, and the discovery of his human hunting grounds in the wilderness painted a picture of chilling inhumanity. Hansen died in prison in 2014, but the legacy of his crimes lives on. His case remains one of the most disturbing examples of a killer who used the isolation of Alaska's vast wilderness to create his own hunting ground, a place where his victims had little chance of survival. The story of Robert Hansen serves as a grim reminder of the darkness that can hide behind even the most ordinary faces, and the lengths some will go to satisfy their twisted fantasies.